Chapter 4, Aircraft Fueling Facilities. Unified Facility Criteria, Designing Petroleum Fuel Facilities. Chapter 4, Aircraft Fueling Facilities. 4.1 Introduction. The chapter provides guidance for the design of aircraft fuel facilities, including operation storage tanks. The components normally located. Typical compound. The components include pipeline receiving facilities, tanker truck, tanker car receiving facilities, refueler truck fill stands type 3, 4, and 5, air fueling system, associated piping and equipment, fuel storage in tanks as are discussed in Chapter 8, piping system, Chapter 9, end of this facility criteria. Book system used to receive the fuels in barges shipped as discussed in Chapter 5, pipelines and transportation fuels off the base of the pipelines between bulk tanks and operating storage tanks are discussed in Chapter 6 of the Unified Facility Criteria. Note that the aviation fuel can be pumped directly with the tank into the aircraft. The air direct fueling system of the refueler treating the tank as an operating storage tank, regardless of the size and location, meeting the applicable requirements of the aviation turbine fuel operating tanks. Exemption is a bulk storage tanks that are configured to fill refuelers or emergency basis only. 411 Function. Aircraft fueling facilities are discussed in this chapter is designed with the ground fueling and the fixed rotary wing aircraft. Two methods are used for the refueling aircraft, refueler trucks, aircraft direct fueling system, hydration system. The performed method of using the at most Navy, Marines, Corps, Army, small aircraft bases is refueler trucks. For the Air Force, transportation, tanker, cargo, mobile, and other large aircraft, the proper method of fueling is by hydrant system, where the aircraft are fueled on the apron in their parked position. The operation mission and requirements dictate a quick return to the air and small frame aircraft, both fixed and rotatory wings are refueled with the engines running with the Viva, the aircraft direct fueling system, and under the Gasco and hot pit refueling concept, installing the aircraft direct fueling system only specifically authorized in service headquarters. 412 Aviation Turbine Fuel. The fuel covered in Chapter are JP4, JP5, JP8, and JPTS, Jet A, and Jet A1. Because of the critical nature of the end of the use of the fuel, protection of the fuel quality, depending on the system, the safety are very important. Refer to Chapter 2 for the UFC information on the fuel properties. 413 Special Precaution for Aviation Turbine Fuel Quality. Take extra care to prevent contamination of aviation turbine fuels for the dirt and water, other fuels. For additional air information, refer to Chapter 2 of the Unified Facility Criteria of the aircraft refueling system must be designed with the capability to generate sufficient turbulent flow of flush, sediment, and condensing water from all portions of the piping system. Refer to Chapter 9 of the UFC for fuel velocity criteria. 4.2 General Requirements. Chapter 2 General Design Information contains information on the fueling facility. Do not design any of the fueling system without first becoming familiar with the Chapter 2 and 9 of the UFC and the airfield clearance requirement found in the UFC 32602. Receiving facilities, fuel delivery to main aviation activity normally made by a tanker truck or the railroad, tanker car, barge, or pipeline. Second method of delivering is normally required by several headquarters that continue the Defensive Energy Supply Center to determine the appropriate type of the delivery method for the base mission requirements, economic analysis. 431 Pipeline receiving facilities. 4311 General criteria. The petroleum fuels must be supplied with the aviation turbine fuel storage to the internal pipelines, installation pipelines, and terminal pipelines must be dedicated to servicing. Particularly familiar with maybe commercial pipelines having been a number of type of the graduated grades of fuel and more than one user. Installation pipeline would normally be a pipe from the bulk facility and the aircraft fueling facility provided with a separate receiving and distributing pipe for each grade of the aviation tube of the fuel unless otherwise approved by the service headquarters. Exercise extreme care to avoid designing a system that could create damaging surges in the pipeline created with a quick closing valve. 4312 Equipment required. Provided with the pressure regulating diaphragm control valve to reduce the pipeline pressure. The design pressure of the facility piping. The equipment to provide manual isolation valve at both upstreams and downstream side of each of the diaphragm control valve. Prior to the design, any features in the system which might affect the flow of the pipeline. Contact the operator of the pipeline. The assertion of the current operation conditions. Evaluate the use of the diaphragm control valves. Conducting the surge analysis of the pipeline. Determine whether the use of the diaphragm control valves is appropriate. Provide a meter with the receiving end line with the measure of the quantities fuel received. The turbine type of the meters are commonly used for the pipeline receipt. However, the positive displacement meters are acceptable if available. Required flow rate. Consider the use of the alternative meter technology such as ultrasonic meters compensated for the fuel temperature at the point of the custody transfer. The provided basket strainer for the upstream side of the meter of the contained in the connections for the improving of the meter with the portable prover. The portable prover connection consists of the manual installation valve with the main pipeline with the T and both of the upstream downstream sides of the valve. The branch of each of the T's has a manual isolation valve with the hose connection. The master meter can be attached to the hose connection. C. The provided with the means of sampling each pipeline protected with the breakout fuel manifold. Provided the provision contractors with the bolt pig launchers receive the system pigging, arranging the pig receiving the connection to avoid introducing pipeline sludge and sediment into the tanks. Pig launching and receive the connections required for the internal cross-country installation as described in Chapter 5 of the UFC underground pipelines. Provide interface with the tank of the received mixed fuels at the beginning of the ending of the shipment unless the commercial pipeline can be provided with a service satisfactory. Provide a breakout tank with a pipeline flow that cannot be stopped due to the pipeline operation requirements. Provided with the valve to divert with the flow of the fuel for the pipeline to break out the tank in the event of the fuel transfer with the block with the manual automatic valve with the fuel facility system. Such as the fuel facility system would be overpressurized transit surge, high pressure from the dead end heading on a pipeline supply with a pump. Provide appropriate breakout tank on the overfill alarms breakout operations so the fuel operators can take necessary steps and stop pipe flow, and provided with the means of transferring fuel out of the breakout tank back into the fuel systems after the breaking out event conducted through the review of the pipeline operator performing the transit surge analysis to determine if the surge pressure reduction methods are required to avoid damage to the pipeline. G. Provide means for the inbound filterization for all products. Selection of the filtration depends on anticipated impurity for the source of the fuel, with the shipping methods avoid for the use of the water slug shutoff diaphragm control valve, the rapid closing valves on the pipeline received at the facility. See the special bound and filtration tablet paragraph in Table 4.1 of the chapter U.S. Final Facility Criteria details. Provide manual inspection values to isolate the equipment for the service. Provide basket training with upstream meters and filterization. Provide the thermal relief valves and isolation check valves to relieve the excessive pressure caused by the thermal expansion liquid trap between shutoff points. C. Facilities plates 023, 024, 025, and 026. Okay, provide a concrete housing and pad, and unless otherwise directed by the service headquarters, and the canopy to protect the fixed facilities as assets and equipment from the elements. See the canopy paragraphs in this chapter. 432 tanker truck and tanker car offloading facilities. 432 tanker truck and tanker car offloading facilities. 24321 general criteria. The fuel system operating the tanks may be supplied with the fuel in the tanker truck, the tanker car, both at facilities. Pipeline water transport with the principal supply source provided with the tanker car to deliver. The secondary supply source for tanker truck deliveries are most commonly met. However, the special transportation consideration, changing circumstances may make the use of the railway's facility desirable. Therefore, at any activity with the railroad service is arranged with the tanker truck, the receiving the facility, so that the system can be easily economically extended to the existing rail spur seat to facility plate 02. The preferred offloading method is into the drop tank of the offloading system. See facility plate 03. The provided with the package offloading system with a drop tank. The type of the offloading system is not practicable for the offloading tanker trucks and tanker cars due to the environmental concerns, site limitations, cost consideration, and where direct service headquarters of the facility plate 04. Provide the direct offloading when only with any occasional tanker truck that requires offloading when directed with the service headquarters. See the facility plate 05. Do not locate and tanker truck or the tanker car receiving facility closer than 50 feet from the tanks of the building. The roads overheaded with the power lines, the transformers, property lines comply with the NFPA 30. They assume the property line with the fuel with harm fence. Use the criteria for the class 1 regardless of the product. Do not take the reduction of the fixed fire product protection. Provide adequate number, the minimum 2 for the position offload with the daily fuel requirements of the facility of an 8-hour period without causing the detention of the demurrage of the delivery conveyancy. Provide separate offloading connections of each of the type of the fuel that they handle to facilitate use of the tank of the truck's multiple independent compartments. Provide a hose manifold minimum of 2 connections per tank of the truck. Manifold the hose connection equal to the number of the truck compartments required with a quick turnaround. If less than 5 connections are provided with a provided blind flange on the end of the manifold to accommodate the additional connections. Provide a contamination area each of the trailer truck offloading position consisting of an impermeable retention control drainage system leading into concrete remote spill containment system paved with the containment each consisting island space between the islands on each side of the other outer islands. The concrete bench at the minimum of that 1% towards each of the catch basins and trench drains designed with the containment in accordance with the UFC005 federal, state, and local regulations. Do not use asphalt with spill contamination area. Maximum slope of any of the paving with the truck movement or the parking should not exceed 2% excepting of rollover curbs, and the rollover curb is provided with the sum of the vertical entrance of the existing grade should not exceed 8% with the horizontal length of the curb, but the direction of the truck movement should not only be less than 15 feet. The roll of the curb should also be aligned particular with the direction of the truck movement at the tank of the car loading area of the pavement containment with the concrete otherwise provided with the contaminant for any other exceeding 5 feet outside of the outer or each of the other railroad extending the longitude 50 feet of each 15 feet each of the way of the center of the loading position slope of the paved area slipping spill contamination system as described previously in item G. Alright, provide concrete remote spill containment system for each of the contamination areas. Design the remote spill containment system in accordance with the UFC 12001 for the federal, state, and local regulations. Provide the remote spill containment system with a capacity greater than either the volume of the largest tank of the truck, the tanker car, of the compartment of the offload of the runoff of the rain, all intensity equal to the 5 years expense of 1 hour duration. Provide with a lockable knife, gate, valve, with the inductor, pots located outside the insured area with the ability to safety accessibly during the fire. The valve should be lockable and nearly closed to all allows to the contamination during the fuel operations, which could be opened to the drain area when necessary. Tank trucks can be as large as 10,000 gallons in the capacity with the tanker cars, as large as 40,000 gallons. If a canopy is installed with the reducing size of the rainfall and accounting with only of the wind-blown rain, considering combining with the remote spill contamination system, other spills contamination systems on site except for the tank and commitment system. However, the tank level of contamination is the contamination area into the consideration. J. The construction of the drain pipe between the contamination area and the remote spill containment system. Between the remote spill containment system, lockable knife, the gate with a valve with the petroleum resistant, fire resistant, impermeable materials. Do not use clay or concrete, fiberglass, or plastic piping materials. K. For the offloading of the tanker trucks, arrange with the flow of the traffic to permit the continuous forward movement of the trucks at all time. Commercial truck offloads to the passenger side. Determine the number of connections needed for the offloading tank of the cars. Consult with the service headquarters. Consider minimizing the tank car movements, tanker car shipping schedules, convenience, turnaround times, rail switching capability, local rail switching capabilities, quantity of the fuel needed for the 1 day fuel supply. Provide an electrical design that meets the minimum requirement of the NFPA 7077 and 78. AO and treat combustible liquids under the pressure of the flame as a flammable liquid. Provide canopy protection for the elements, fixed facility assets, equipment for the per canopies paragraph of this chapter to provide the canopy procured the rain with the containment area within the requirements listed in the canopies paragraph of this chapter met. Provide the egress and entrance of the emergency response vehicle. The egress and entrance of the routes needed to be large enough to allow both trucks and emergency vehicles to leave and entry into the facility. Provide means of inbound filtration of all product selection, filtration, dependence, anticipated impurities, source of fuel, and shipping method. Special inbound filtration, paragraph 4.1 of this chapter UFC. 4322 tanker truck and tanker car drop tank offloading system. The introduction of the air fuel receiving system poses extreme hazardous, which can result in the fire explosion. Hazardous compound with the air and fuel mixture that is passed through the receiver filter separated with the static electricity. These generated ignition can occur. Design offloading facilities so that they are not introduced into the system. For the facility capability, offloading several tank trucks at once. Whether the new tank of the truck is multiple hoses connected with the multiple isolated compartments considered provided underground gravity type receiving tank with a deep well turbine transferring the pump and the level control. For the smaller system with one of the tank of the truck considered provided lower profile above ground receiving tank with a central vehicle transfer pump. For either the case, provide level sensors to control the transfer rate. Provide a meter on the receipt line to the tank at the position of the custody transfer, and when directed for a materials construction offload tower drop tank, see refer to chapter 8, see facility plate 03. 423 tanker truck and tanker car package offloading system. The tanker truck and the tanker car offloading and the offloading drop-off tank may not be particularly practical due to the environmental concerns, site limitations, consideration. For instance, they're provided with the 600-gallon per minute package offloading system, provided with one package system, including the vertical line and inline central figure pump diaphragm control valve to control the flow meter and multiple hose connections for one in each of the tanker truck compartment for each tanker car to the truck, and the tanker car receiving the station provided with the air eliminator tank to remove the air from the system, reducing the risk of the airflow mixture with the passing of the receipt for the filter separately, preventing the meter of the air level sensors for the air eliminator to take control of the pump discharge diaphragm control valve, modulating the fuel rate based on the level of the air eliminator tank. Refer to the Navy FAC drawing number 4404005 or facility plate 0404. 4324. The tanker truck and the tanker car direct offloading system, when used on the occasional tank of the truck, requires offloading when directed with the service headquarters. Refer to the facility plate 005. Equipment required. When the tanker truck and the tanker cars are offloading with the drop tank offloading system, do not provide the offload loading pump. Provided at least the two pumps at the drop tank of the transfer field to the storage tank. When the tanker truck and the tanker cars are offloaded, the package offloading system provided with one system if each of the tank of the truck and the tanker car is used to be offloaded simultaneously. An average capacity of 600 gallons. The number of the systems should be determined at the service of the headquarters, but should be the minimum of 2. The capacity of the system has been reduced to 300 gallons per minute, with each of these have been directed to the service of the headquarters. When the tanker trucks or the tanker cars are offloaded with the directed loading of the system, provided with the central figure pump to provide automatic air elimination, shown in the facility plate 005, provided at least 2 pumps that also contained the operation. If out the service of the capacity of the pumps is increased to the 6 gallon per minute within each of the other, directed with the service headquarters with the center height of the suction line with the manifold with the pump. This should exceed 23.25 inches above the truck. Unloading the parking position, locate the pump as close as possible to the truck of the offloaded point to prevent suction problems. When the tank of the truck or the tanker cars are offloading with the drop tank offloading, do not provide an offloading pump. Provide at least the 2 pumps in the drop tank of the transfer fuel from the drop tank to the storage tank car. Provide 4 inches diameter by a 10-foot long, lightweight, reinforced vacuum rated offloading hose covered by the hose storage racks for each of the hose connection, each of the overloading position. Ensure that all swivels are non-lubricated, aluminum, stainless steel, and line repairable type. Equipment in each of the tank truck offloading position with electronic intrinsically safe and automatic self-grounding. The verification until the lockable pass on the ground is not verified that there is an offloading pump dedicated to the position. Ensure that the unit prevents the pump from starting. The pump is not dedicated to ensure an alarm. The sounds offloading valve is often open prior to the ground verification. Include separate grounding wheel to accommodate the vehicles without grounding equipment. G. The provided emergency fuel shutoff button stations for the truck offloading station with the multiple position. The emergency fuel shutoff button is required for each of the position along the routes of personal ingress and egress between 100 to 200 feet offloading position. Designed in the same manner, activation of the emergency shutoff of all fuel refueling or loading of the area with the associated pump house and pumping pad. Provides fuel sampling connections at the position for each of the product line with collecting test samples to provide the pressure gauge on the both sides of each strainer with the differential type of the gas across the type of the gauge across each of the strainer with the strainers upstream with the pump suction gauge may function as the strainer downstream gauge. The provided with the compound pressure vacuum gauge on the inlet side of the pump, the pressure gauge on the outside of the pumps. If system for JP5 and other fuels, it does not have the static dissipation. If that does not have a static dissipation additive, the product conductive level greater than 50 micropiso specimens and 30-second retention time is not provided between the filter separator. Receiving tank provides a relaxation tank. Provide a relaxation tank designed for the piping layout to provide a required 30-second relaxation time downstream of the filter separator. Provide a basket strainer upstream of the pump of the meter of the receipt of the filtration. Provide with the combination flow of the control nor surge of the east shack of the diagram. Control for the valve on the loading of the pumps except for the provided displacement type. If the bulk eliminator automatic air release head is included, provide means for closing diaphragm control valve with a solenoid pocket pilot. And provide the positive displacement turbine meter with the meter, providing the connection provided with the meter with the turbine temperature constant capability where the gusty transfer occurs, provided with the basket trainer on the upstream side of the meter. On each loading of the connection, offloaded riser installed with the visual flow indicator with the maximum pressure of 275 psi at 100 degrees Fahrenheit, with vital seals with a maximum temperature rating of the 350 degrees that will allow the visual quality assurance provided with the operator with the backup system is shut off of the pumps, and when offloading is complete to prevent the air buildup of the receipt lines. Provided the filter separates other filterization devices described in Fable 4.1 with the filter fuel before it enters the storage tank. Provide manual isolation valves to isolate the equipment for the service. To provide thermal relief valves and isolation check valves to relieve excessive pressure caused by the thermal expansion of the liquid trap between the shutoff points. See facilities 0, 23, 24, 25, and 26. The JPA system provided with the capability to defuel JP8 refueler tanks and showed operating storage described in the paragraph titled Defueling, Restoring, Return to Bulk System in Chapter. When the tank trucks and tanker cars are offloading, the drop tanks provide a meter of the receipt line of the tank only when it's directed with the service headquarters. 4.3 Marine Offload Facility, see Chapter 5 of the UFC. Um, of this USC. 434 Special Inbound Filterization Fuel to transfer the base fuel system operating tanks of the tanker barges directly to supply from the supplier off base multiple product pipeline passing the fuel to the strainer with the pre-filterization, then fine filterization. In other cases, the fuel through the strainer and fine filterization. See the table 4.1 of this chapter. Details. 4.4 Dispensing Facility.